welcome back. I am Diane Cox, that is the label I was given this time round, and I am here talking about goddesses today. A little bit different, but really, is it? They're so influential and portray the many aspects of feminine, a divine feminine, and all the ray of wonderfulness that as women can express, hopefully, if you're in a good space of expressing. So yes, my good friend asked me to do a series of videos on goddesses, just kind of reminding people about qualities, and if you want to imbibe and think about the qualities that goddesses own and radiate, then you can get a little photograph or something, a chant to a goddess, and really kind of connect with that ancient spirit of that lovely divine feminine. And so I have an affinity with Sekhmet. I did this painting of Sekhmet, I think it was last year, and behind my computer screen I have a statue of Sekhmet. And I tell you what first got me into it quickly, and then I'll go on to talking about what she stands for, or it'll all come out while I'm saying. So when I was much younger and exploring, I was, I've had a whole life of healing. That's what my, as I've said before, that's what my career has been. Hands-on healing, and then helping the mind, and all kinds of other aspects of healing, auric, energetic healing, that kind of stuff. And obviously when I was exploring healing and energies, ancient kind of energies that were related to it, Sekhmet comes up, okay? Because Sekhmet is known, she has two very different kind of ways of being. She is known for being the goddess of healing and the goddess of destruction. She's known as a war goddess and an emissary of Ra, basically. She was born out of the fire of Ra's eye, and she was sent to Earth to basically get humans back into order, because they were running rampant and wild, of course, like they always do, not following any good guidelines, just going a bit mental. And so Sekhmet was sent down in the fire of Ra's eye to basically destroy humanity. And she went on a right old rampage, she did, because she's a bit of a bloodthirsty lass. And sorry, Sekhmet, I won't talk about you like a lass, a bloodthirsty, mighty, powerful goddess. Her name actually means one of power, or the powerful one. And she basically went on this rampage and to destroy humanity. And Ra was quite shocked and alarmed to see Sekhmet doing this, and so he mixed beer and pomegranate juice, which ended up looking like blood, and put it in the path of Sekhmet. And Sekhmet, there were 7,000 jugs, I believe, so the story goes, and she drank them all, and then lay in a stupor for 3 days. And when she awoke, her bloodlust had gone, and therefore humanity was saved. Okay, so it's quite an interesting story, but she's depicted as like a real warrior goddess, fearless and terrifying. And there's she's portrayed in one or two friezes as being on horseback with these flames blazing out of her, and scorching the enemy as she rides through. So that's one aspect of her: destruction, chaos, plague, war, that kind of stuff. And the other side is that she's the kind of the patron of healing and medicine, like a medicine woman, and healers, and doctors of the time and stuff. And so when I was researching healing and which deities in the ancient worlds were kind of patrons of healing, she obviously came up. And then I read all about her. And there's a funny thing, isn't there? Because healing often involves destruction and deconstruction of something, doesn't it? And so destruction and healing, even though they seem polar opposite, do actually have a very aligned purpose. Not always, you don't want to be going to war with your body, but dis-ease and illness is a war in the body. And it's said that if Sekhmet comes in dreams spontaneously, it can mean that there is healing going on. There's kind of spontaneous healing going on if she appears in the dreams. So she has many I'll tell you a story actually about Sekhmet, and this is after I was really aligned with her. And of course, for a lot of women, if you're not into the modern, baby of religions, which is kind of Christianity, the newest kind of religion, and you're not into the ways that women are portrayed in Christianity, something I've never aligned to. I've never been able to come to terms with, subjugating oneself to a man and just doing what he says, and everything will be fine. And there's stories in the Bible about how women are treated that I'm just like, no, not for me. So you look at Egypt, and you look at Hinduism and the Kali Durga energy. It is, it's something for women to go, wow, this is celebrated in these religions. Powerful, wild, mad women. And the acknowledgement of that power, the acknowledgement of what is within women. Of course, there's lots of different goddesses that are gentle and kind and beautiful and, whatever. And there's raging ones, which is, I'm reading at the moment a lot about women and illness, and women kind of almost becoming ill because of a lot of the inability to say no. And of course, women are taught to say no, taught not to say no a lot, because they're always holding and juggling and plate spinning and everything else, and always helping that person and this person look after family and maybe working and thinking about food and the whole thing and whatever. I'm not saying the man doesn't do his bit, obviously he does, but women, I'm reading a lot about how women, and one of the most precious things women can do for themselves is learn to say, no, actually, that doesn't suit me. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to be available. Anyway, that's a little bit off the topic. But the Sekhmet energy is immense, wild and powerful and unapologetic, just going for it, sent with the wrath of Ra. He was not quite expecting her to be quite as good at the job as she was. But this powerful then, and then this ability to heal, to kind of channel healing energy, and, to have that ability to be aligned with healing and all kinds of healing, mental, spiritual, physical, emotional healing. So I've always really found her story and I think the kind of permissive ability just to be, just to be that wild. Well, she wasn't wild. She was very focused on the destruction of humanity. And the story that one of the stories that I have about Sekhmet is, I was in Egypt at the temple of Karnak temple. And this guide kind of knew that there was a few people that were really into the whole Sekhmet thing. And he took us to this kind of area that is, people aren't meant to go to. Anyway, we went to it, and he unlocked this temple. It's a very small little thing, but there's only, you walk in and there's a room, and then there's 3 rooms, one after the other, all got statues of Sekhmet in them. And it's pitch black, apart from, as you know, if you've been to Egypt, they have this little hole through the brickwork and stuff that casts a shaft of light. And I went into the first room, and there was a statue there, and it was kind of quite, had quite a bit of damage to it, but it was still like, well, that's nice, all the darkness and then this shaft of light, and there she was. And I went into the second room, and there's another statue, a bit less damaged, but quite damaged and still very nice. Went into the third room, and there's a statue there that's almost perfect with a shaft of light, and I am not kidding. And there was another woman with me, and she had, there was 4 of us in the room at the time, and I walked in, and literally my knees buckled. It was like, whoa, it's like, you will kind of, acknowledge the power here. And I remember kind of my knees buckling and just like, oh, and literally this kind of, ooh. And, I am rational, despite what I might sometimes come across as. And I was thinking, it's a statue, Diane, and yes, it's beautiful, and I know it's very, eerie and wonderful in here, and that light and whatever. But there was something about the energy. Obviously, all the people that had been into that place and just like bowed down at the statue of the representation of Sekhmet. And if you don't know, she is she has a body of a woman and a head of a lioness, and often this sun disk, because obviously she has a very big association with the sun and the desert. It's said that her hot breath caused the desert, and she is associated with the heat of the sun, that hot desert kind of sun. And anyway, I went into this room first, and like I said, my knees buckled, and I was like, I didn't stumble over anything. I didn't, there was nothing there. My knees buckled, and I ended up on my knees. I really did end up on my knees and like shaking, trembling. It was really bizarre because I wasn't expecting it after the first 2 rooms I'd come to. And the woman behind me, she just was like, she had like a really big reaction. She was like just crying and sobbing at this whole thing, and then kind of that set me off a bit. And because it was a kind of recognition, or maybe it's just something to do with being a woman and just having a figure, a deity that actually speaks to you. It speaks to a deep part of you, me. If you're not the kind of woman that rages or flies or just kind of has that dark, you haven't quite met your dark half yet, your dark side, your dark goddess, then maybe it's it's a bit like, sounds a bit weird. But when you know your darkness and you've been there and you've sat with your dark side, and this Sekhmet, this goddess, the mighty one, the powerful one, the lady of can be the lady of terror. I don't like calling her a lady because she's not a lady, for me. When you've got a goddess, it just goes, yeah, I am that. I am this bloodthirsty warrior that will ride on a horse, throwing flames out, because that's what I am. And it's interesting how that is not often given to young little girls. It's not that kind of, we not all, in England we do a lot of studying of Egypt, but it's that kind of stuff that just connects and aligns. And, when you think of the old female cultures like the Amazonians and stuff, it's kind of, that I see some kind of ways of life and religions, they just have sought to completely suppress and oppress and repress everything wild and wonderful about women. And so yes, that is my story about going to Karnak, and this woman was crying, and then she did like this ritual, and she was doing all this fantastic stuff, and I just was in my head, and I wasn't really expecting. I just thought it was going to be and there's a lot of statues. If you've been to Karnak, there's a lot of statues of Sekhmet around, and I just thought, oh great, but it'll be nice just to see, in her own temple. It's like her temple. Wow, what an experience! It was just mind blowing. It really was. So Yeah, that is one thing I will say about her also is that Sekhmet is often seen as doing not only obviously the emissary of Ra, but acting on behalf of Mart, which is, I would say, the goddess of truth. And but Mart can be the goddess of justice, which maybe truth is the same, and balance. So it's interesting how Sekhmet is also aligned with the goddess Mart, because it's not destruction because of just destruction. It was destroying humanity because, you know, they're cocking everything up, and they're probably ruining the earth again, or just, you know, drinking and fornicating. Okay. Sounds like fun. What else are they going to do? Till the land, sow the land. You know, in Egypt, in its heyday, they had gardens and they grew lots of crops and they had lots of trees, and it was a haven. They grew food and there was water and there was like all kinds of stuff. You know, we see Egypt now as the dry kind of, you know, thousands of years old, still standing, with all the miraculous architecture that people cannot reproduce today with the tools that they think they had. You know, they think that they carved those obelisks with, you know, a chisel. It's like, come on, wake up, really? Do you think so? And I remember seeing something once about a fantastic thing about hieroglyphs, and it was about using sound, like sound frequency, and they had like this stamp. So say, imagine you've got like the Eye of Horus. They had a stamp, and they would hold the stamp to the concrete, and this frequency would just almost stamp it into the concrete. You know, again, we've been taught that there's a little guy with a hammer and chisel getting these things completely perfect every time. I saw this thing demonstrated. It wasn't like just an idea. Someone had made a modern one, and not with, you know, stuff that they wouldn't have at the time, but they had these stamps and they could just go zzz, 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 you know, and just have each letter, each kind of hieroglyph and stuff. So yes, that is Sekhmet. Anything else? I wrote down the things that I definitely didn't want to forget, but I think I've said everything that is here. Apart from, she's thought to be one of the oldest Egyptian deities. And it's an interesting thing with Bast and Bastet, because when you do research on it, like Bast is often associated with Lower Egypt, Sekhmet is associated with Upper Egypt, and some people think they were twins, or Bast is just like the calmer version of Sekhmet. I think that's quite an interesting way of looking at things. So yes, that is Sekhmet. So I'll put a picture of that painting up, and you can really have a good look at her. And you know, when you're working with goddess energy, it's really great to get a few that you really resonate with and what they stand for, what their qualities are, and then, like I say, put pictures up or get a chant or just write the qualities down. And you know, there's lovely meditations you can do where you, for instance, you would step in to a temple and see Sekhmet in front of you. Actually, I might do one of those. I might do one after this, like a simple thing that if you want to bring out your own healing, or ask her for healing, or ask her for strength with the personal power and stuff. So yeah, that's my first goddess little video, Sekhmet, the mighty powerful one. And all hail the powerful goddess. So I hope you enjoyed that, and thanks for watching. I will be back with another video very soon. Thank you. Bye bye.